through policy choices. As the National Police Service, we are always pleased to be part of this auspicious process, not just from the fringes, but being at the center of it all. And 2022 wasn't an exception. As a security and law and order institution, we commenced our journey for the 2022 election immediately after the 2017 elections. This time around, we took the process more seriously, arising from the tumultuous past elections in Nairobi. And we purpose to do it different this time around and get it right. So the question is, how different do we do this time around? In response, we put in place a mechanism mandated to chaperone the election security provision. At the helm of it was a senior police officer who is here with me, Mr. Kisani, stand up please. He was our chief national officer, elections. We are mandated to play a liaison role between the service and the IEBC, including other critical electoral stakeholders and partners. It is this liaison role that gave us a seat at the table of critical decision-making, enabling us to gain insights on key issues that not only informed but also enriched our internal planning. Secondly, we audited our performance from the past election, gaining insights and learning lessons from where we did well and where we might have failed. We picked the best lessons and incorporated them into our operational doctrine. Thirdly, and more importantly, we put in place a robust planning process, bringing together key policing elements from within the service and coupled with from our security sector partners. We broke our silos and simply approached electoral security planning as one national agenda. Shared resources and continuously compared notes as we progressed. This indeed was a game changer in the turnaround. Fourthly, we developed related policy guidance documents in good time to support the process. Through our liaison office, we worked jointly with IBC and developed robust training guidance for all levels of our practitioners, purposely to empower them to better perform. At the core of this training guidance was a deliberate focus on democratic, human rights-based, and responsive policing paradigm. Officers from across the country were taken through all aspects of theoretic and practical electoral security provision, working through extensive simulations. Of great interest was use of force requirements. From our learnings from past elections, experiences, this was one stubborn risk area responsible for bad policing outcomes that we had to get right. Once armed with this basic requisite, we as a service, through our senior leadership, further continuously engage the IBC leadership through high-level policy interactions, constantly assuring them of our full cooperation and support to enable them to deliver on their mandate. And to ensure that we succeeded, for the first time ever, we mobilized the largest deployment of about 150,000 strong force of officers. This included auxiliary support from partner agencies like Kenya Prisons, KWS, NYS, the Kenya Forest, and the NPR from some of the patriotic areas, who graciously donated their time and resources to make the elections a success. We applaud them on their generosity. As a service, with a wide outreach, we went further to support the process with logistics as necessary. Ladies and gentlemen, all these are a testament of NPS valued partnership in the electoral process. Therefore, do we deliver on our mandate? Second question. Yes, we did attain our main objective, and this was simply to support IBC deliver a free and fair election through provision of a secure environment. We ensured that peace prevailed. We populated all areas with adequate security, pre, at, and post-election. We took measures to ensure volatile and high-risk areas were proactively secured to reassure communities. We worked either alone or with peace partners such as NIC and others through Uwaino platform to create valuable peace. And this initiative paid great dividends as reflected in the peaceful election outcome. And with this positive outcome, we are glad that observers, our partners, some of them here, and the general public took note and appreciated our contribution. As recent as during the inauguration of the 5th President of the Republic of Kenya, attended by Her Excellency, Mama Samia Suluhu, President of Tanzania, she noted as follows during her speech, and I quote, "Kama iko zawadi wa Kenya walipea Jumuiya ya Afrika Mashariki ni amani." And ladies and gentlemen, we are pleased to have been part of this gift of a peaceful election. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bruno, for those remarks. Now I have the pleasure to welcome Mude Musa, the National Coordinator of the Election Observation Group, in which KNCHR is also a member. Mude.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mongesa, for the invitation. I wasn't actually expecting it. With the Kenya National Commission of Human Rights for a very long time for these elections. To the chairperson of the commission, all invited guests, including my boss here, Kanan Kinanjuisori from the SCK, all protocol observed. Good morning, everybody. I have very few things to say for purposes of this very auspicious occasion. It's very interesting that the Commission is among the first organizations to release a report for the elections, and it has put all of us on the spot. I think that's a very good thing. They are very expedient. They've done this very fast. Many of us are waiting for around 2 months. Then we start seeing some of the reports about the elections, but I think this is a very commendable thing for the Commission. I congratulate you on the occasion on this occasion where you could be launching the report on the elections. At least it will be the first thing that Kenyans can be able to look into in terms of what transpired over what I would consider from where I was one of the most celebrated elections. I don't know whether that is nationally, but internationally, I think it was one of the most celebrated elections, despite, of course, the challenges that we went through. I work for the Elections Observation Group as a national coordinator. ELOG deployed 5,000 observers. We expect, now that we've been, of course, we've been put on the spot, we are working very fast to also be able to release our report. Our hope is that within the next month we'll be able to issue a very comprehensive report, which includes our observation of the long term, the 8 months before the elections, the electoral processes themselves, and others, to give an extra or more information in terms of the process and how it was conducted. We worked with Kenya, the Commission, as a member of the Technical Working Group on the elections for quite a long, about 1 year before the elections, in areas, different thematic areas. The Commission, of course, has a specialty in the area of jurisdiction, and they've done a very good job. One of the things that I want to celebrate for, again, from where I stand, is that we have seen the involvement of state agencies, much more robust involvement of state agencies in our elections over time. Starting with the Judicial Commission on Elections, which did a very good job. The National Police Service, as you've heard from Shiosho, in terms of the engagement in the process. The NCIC, very robust in this particular election. And then the Commission itself. The report which the Commission gave in 2017 was one of the anchors of the reform process that we had in between this electoral process. And I believe that the report that will be launching today will be able to inform or better inform our electoral reform processes moving forward. I've just spared a thought for IEBC, because I know IEBC, it is one organization that is going through some interesting times. It will be IEBC, and I think from what transpired over this electoral process, moving forward, I was of the opinion that the one area that, or the one institution that will be focusing on in the post-election process will be the IEBC. Granted, I think they still delivered on their mandate. And when I'm talking about IEBC, we're talking about the thousands of employees of IEBC across the country who, despite the tensions and the pressure, and we were working with them very closely through the election process. Some of them were even calling us to ask why are we not speaking out in their defense, because they were facing local pressures. Forget about the national issue, there are local pressures all over. So we believe they did a very good job at the end of the day. As what happens to the commission moving forward, my hope is that we can all be able to work together in terms of ensuring that we have a very stable commission moving forward. You must remember that we have 3 commissioners who will be retiring in January, I think, and then we have 4 commissioners who will be left. So we'll have to sit as a country, we have to find a way of how to make our institution, which is in charge of elections in the country, stronger, considering now that everybody is also a number of petition processes which are going on. There'll be by-elections, there'll be very many. We are looking at the boundary delimitation process, which is set to start. So we need to put that institution in order. We think they did a very good from where we stand, and we need to celebrate how those very patriotic Kenyans worked through the entire process and still delivered on an election despite the circumstances. Last, ELOG and a number of other actors will be working to hold a national symposium for all election observers. I think we'll be working very closely with the Commission on this matter. The idea is to bring home all the recommendations, all the reports that we have all gathered in the electoral process, to have a compendium that we can all be able to access in terms of advocacy for electoral reforms that are due to come. My last point is that we have had a lot of problems when it comes to elections in this country, and this election is no different. But one of the major problems that we've had is the issue of ensuring that the reforms that are required are done within a period of sobriety. We end up running very late in the day. Parliament runs very late into the day. We have changes to electoral laws this year. We had coming into place. We had 2 funds to IBC coming also again very late. I think we need to work as stakeholders in this area to ensure that within, once the Commission gives out the recommendations today, ELOG and others will be also issuing the recommendations in due course. Can we be able to work very quickly within a sober period? Is it 53% of members of parliament who are new now? If we have such people, we can convince, we can talk to them earlier on before they get co-opted into power, where they end up having particular interests. I think if you can be able to work between now and December next year and try to push as much of the reform agenda in the tables of parliament and other decision-making processes, we've done ourselves a very good job. I thank you for this invitation, and I want to thank again the Commission for what I consider a very good job done. I've worked with them. I'm very sure the report will be able to inform the process. Congratulations on this occasion of the launch of your election report.
Thank you very much, Mule, for those remarks. Kenya National Commission on Human Rights work very closely with the National Coalition and the Integration Commission, and I have the honor to invite Honorable Engineer Philip Okundi, who is a commissioner, to make his remarks.
Good morning. Chairperson, the Kenya National Human Rights Commission, chairmen of the independent commissions, independent bodies and commissions in this country. All the development partners who are working with us in this process of making Kenya a truly recognized human rights. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm very happy on behalf of the National Coalition Integration Commission for this invitation to come and be part of those who take part of this very important assignment, which is being shown today under the National Human Rights Commission. I commend it because you have been able to produce a report very fast after the general elections. I would say that we in the NCIC, and thank you the coordinator for mentioning us and others, we started very, very hard to look into this idea of creating peace and looking into inclusivity and looking into recognition of diversity and making sure that our elections will be peaceful. Because at the end of the day, there is Kenya, but Kenya will remain whatever happens, and that's why we need peace. I must just refer to what the canon from the canon mentioned my name about the old Mlolongo days, the Mlolongo days under the party of Kanu. We did, people suffered because I think those days there was no question of human rights. If you say human rights, we just laugh at you. When you're going to seek national positions in leadership, you were elected by lines, molongos. Your queues and numbers were less. But the guys who count, you know, they start with one, and they move, they go in front. A few people pass, and the numbers are not in that list. And then they say, "Oh, all right, we found this number, this number." And you at the biggest number, you find yourself not getting in. You complain, and you fight, and what? They say, "No, these are the numbers we found." And you know, those were terrible days. But it is reminding me of in the 1940s, early, Joseph Stalin, the leader of the Soviet Union. He said that in any election, it is the counters who choose the leaders. It is not how you vote, it is how you counted. And this brings me to the issue that as we talk of human rights in this country, we want freedom for everyone to exercise his or her human rights, to serve his people, serve his country, serve the purposes for the country. And the institutions like the Kenya National Human Rights, we must thank ourselves, all Kenyans, that the one who created this condition, where human rights are talked about, whether good or bad. And we must also say the institutions involved in making sure this thing happens, like the IBC. I'm glad that the national coordinator mentioned the IBC. The IBC people always, there was no time nobody failed to talk about IBC when elections were coming. They've done a wonderful job. But as you see with those Joseph Stalin stories, it looks like it ends up at how people are counted. And he's done a good job, but it's a job which is terribly difficult. Very, very difficult. Doesn't matter how you do it. There are some people who just don't believe to accept any results. You know, they were saying sometimes that the problem is not being able to accept results. But you know, If you want to lead, if you want to win, it is very hard to accept results. It's very painful. And therefore, the process of getting people to accept results is a major piece and engagement very early. And I'm glad it's mentioned that we always do things last minute. Reform IBs, reform this one, reform these laws, reform this house of rules, whatnot. And then people are in a hurry running the food which is properly, not properly. So in the end, you find that some people, they are going to have some against. Some people are very satisfied because they're not worried what kind of food they eat. We do it early. And I'm glad that you put this report now. And all the other institutions do yours now. So that we start early so the next stage is good. But Kenyans are one. Kenyans are one because after this election, people are thinking that anything can happen. And it is known that in Kenya, every 5 years we have general elections. And chances are violence is part of the thinking. That's what happened in the past. But this time around, Kenyans said, okay, whatever it is, we will go by what the result is, but we must have peace. And I want to commend one of the leading people in this country, Professor Nyang. He said that elections have been announced, the results have been announced, but my people of this country and people elsewhere, please maintain peace. Make sure it's peaceful, whatever it is peaceful. If it's not right, seek justice through the legal system. And you see, things just quieted down. But you know, I was speaking from a place which is one of the hotspots in this country. It was already boiling and it went almost starting. And then it said, they went down. Now, that is God who was forcing leaders to say something. And this saying something has led to peace all the way, whatever anybody thinks. And I would say that for the first time, Kenyans have embraced peace. And peace is the most expensive item in any country, even in a family. You spend to create peace irrespective of the costs. Because peace, when there is peace, everything will work and all of us will be happy at the end of the day. I thank you so much. I'm looking forward to the report because I also say that we need an MOU review so that the two institutions and others can join us in working hard to create chances that make Kenyans do things the right way and at the end of the day embrace a peaceful recognition of the human rights of their people. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Commissioner. You've given us an action point, and I can assure you we have already noted it for action. Let me now invite the National Gender and Equality Commission, one of the commissions under Article 59, whom we work very closely with, represented here by Commissioner Caroline Lentukuru to make her remarks. Commissioner.
The chairpersons, commissioners, CEOs of the constitutional commissions, and all other invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It's my pleasure to be here today representing the chairperson of National Gender and Equality Commission, who was not able to be here today. So we are happy as a commission to be invited to this forum. We really appreciate our sister commission, the National Commission on Human Rights, because we are enjoying at the hip. We cannot do without you, you cannot do without us, you cannot do without CAJ, and the reason we are here, to give you every support you need because that is what the Constitution demands of us. We thank you for doing what you do best. You monitor the elections. We met you in the field. We can tell Kenyans that true, this report, data was collected in the field, because we were there with you and we appreciate. And so we are looking forward as National Gender and Equality Commission, because our primary mandate is to promote gender equality and non-discrimination in Kenya. We know as you went to the field, you collected data, and there must be issues touching on gender equality and non-discrimination, and we are ready and waiting to pick on those issues for action, because that is the reason why reports are given, recommendations are given, so that agencies of government and even private in this case will be able to take up their duty. So thank you so much for inviting us. We are ready to collaborate with you, and we are also working on our report. Once it's ready, we'll invite you. Congratulations for doing yours early enough. Something else is that it's really my prayer that going forward, you will be able to get adequate resources. Because when she was presenting the overview of the report, I realized how rich it is. And I was telling myself, if only they had enough resources to cover every polling station in this country, you can imagine the great report that we could have and actions for all government agencies. We appreciate you, and may God bless you all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner, for those remarks. Commission on Administrative Justice, Office of the Ombudsman, also under Article 59. I have the pleasure to invite the Vice Chairperson of CAJ, Washington, Sati, to come and make his remarks. Sati, karibu sana.
Thank you so much, CEO. Chairpersons present from independent commissions, fellow commissioners present from, of course, different independent commissions, all the CEOs present from different commissions, development partners present this morning, distinguished invited guests, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning. I'm here this morning to represent our chairperson, Madam Florence, Honorable Florence Kajuju, who will have really loved to join this event today. Unfortunately, as a commission, we're also launching our investigation report on the issue of immigration, and therefore she is there. She could not be able to come. However, the commission is really honored to be part of this occasion. And on behalf of the Commission on Administrative Justice, we want to express our congratulations to our sister commission for setting up a wonderful example for all of us to imitate. Let's appreciate them in sign language then. It's beautiful and a wonderful job well done. As the CEO already mentioned, yes, of course, we are a sister commission together with the National Gender and Equality Commission, the Commission on Administrative Justice, and also known as the Office of the Ombudsman, whose mandate focuses on matters around administrative justice and access to information. That is the mandate that we were given to perform under Article 59(4) of the Constitution and also the CAJ Act. And of course, we were also part of the journey to monitor the election process, particularly narrowing down to what extent is or are the election processes adhering or looking at around issues of maladministration, and of course, looking at matters around access to information. So those are the two mandates that we were observing. We deployed monitors also across the country, and when Dr. Anne Okutoi was making her remarks on the overview, we are somehow sharing similar findings. All of us have noted that during election, there are things that we must ask ourselves. My first question is, we had more than 21 million registered voters. However, perhaps less than 14 million voted. The question we need to ask ourselves is, where is the problem? We need to ask ourselves whether, is it the issue of awareness? Is it the issue of civic education, or just voter apathy? Why? Because we want to promote the rights of every citizenry of this country, not to vote as within or what the Constitution says. If almost 8 million people did not vote, that is a big question that needs to generate a conversation. It's not something to be taken lightly. Why? Because this is a human rights issue. A country like ours must pick that as an issue. I believe it's one of the issues that were captured in the report. I also noted similar findings together, or when they were being shared, on the issues of public officers in the electioneering process, particularly in the campaigns. It's another serious issue that we need to discuss, all of us. How do we make sure that in the future we'll minimize the participation of public officers in this process? Because it brings serious implication, serious emotional discussion, and of course, disagreement when it comes to issuing of results at the end. I must also say, particularly persons with disabilities, I looked at the findings that were shared. And we, of course, noted the same, that in different areas, I agree that issues of infrastructures where the elections were happening, like in different schools, we understand that the physical infrastructures are or were not accessible, and this is something that I will ask the Commission plus other development partners to look at in the future. How do we set a framework that will ensure that persons with disability also enjoy their rights to vote? Not only persons with disability, but elderly, mothers who are pregnant, among others, to make sure that they enjoy their rights to vote. I don't want to talk much, but I believe that we are part of, or I am part of the officers who have worked in all Article 59 commissions, starting with the National Gender and Equality Commission, moving to Human Rights, and now CAJ. It has been a big honor. One of the strengths of all those three commissions is coming up with wonderful reports. This is a strength that we enjoy as sister commission. But more efforts need to be done, or to see how we can ensure that all these reports then generate positive discussion so that we're able to push for the implementation of the key findings from those reports. Looking at all those reports, they always have wonderful findings, but then needs to be enforced by different institutions. How can we make sure that all of them, all the findings find their place into the implementation part? We need to have another platform where different players, particularly public offices, will share their findings. Then from there, we'll come up with one major ways, or one major way on how we can push to the reforms of elections in Kenya. But as a commission, this is CAJ, we commit to working with our sister commission, because this is a requirement by the Constitution and also looking at our constituting acts. And those are things that we commit to continue working together. Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting us, and thank you very much. God bless you all.
Thank you, Commissioner Sati, Vice Chairperson, Office of the Ombudsman, CAJ. Now, I take this opportunity to invite Anne McCoy, the Chairperson, Independent Police Oversight Authority, to make her remarks. Karibu.
Thank you, CEO. Thank you very much. I'll try to keep my comments to the written comments as much as possible in the interest of time. I was sitting next to the chair and I can see she's looking at her watch. If I'm not very audible, I hope I am. I'm recovering from a cold and then I've had the benefit of sitting under the cooler. So I've been struggling with the AC, but I believe it's all well. Kenya National Commission on Human Rights Chairperson Roslyn Odede, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I receive warm greetings from the Independent Policing Oversight Authority fraternity. At IPOA, we consider KNCHR a critical partner with whom we are joined at the hip in the striking similarities dictated by parts of our mandates, and also because the chairperson, Ms. Odede, also sits in the apex organ of the IPOA. That is the board. She's a member of the board in IPOA as an ex officio. Therefore, she's a member of my board. So in that regard, I'm our chair. It's such a privilege, actually, if you get an opportunity to have a chairperson of another commission sitting in your board. I can tell you that. So I'm very privileged to have her in the board of IPOA. And I believe it's by design that the chairperson of KNCHR sits in IPOA board. And that can be demonstrated by the invariable contribution that Ms. Odede, as well as her predecessors. In the past, we had the privilege of having Commissioner, I can see she's busy, currently the Executive Director of Witness Protection, Olodio, sitting with us. She's the one who ordinarily was sent. Once in a while, the chairperson would come, but ordinarily, we had Commissioner, now the Executive Director of Witness Protection, sitting on our board, and that partnership has brought immense value to IPOA. And also considering now these institutions work together and they understand each other, it adds a lot of benefit to our work. So this association has not been limited to the board functions alone, but we have endeavored to cascade the relationship to the officials who form our secretariats. The Secretariat of IPOA and Secretariats of Kenya National Commission on Human Rights are quite familiar with one another because ideally they've got to work together on many areas. So successes of these symbioses have been demonstrated in the past and continue to be of relevance even today. I can confidently, therefore, inform all of us gathered here today that IPOA and KNHCR officials, in particular those who are deployed across our country to monitor August general elections, work hand in hand. We had to cooperate and collaborate because we don't have enough numbers and rely on each other for effective delivery of service. So thanks to the confidence and the goodwill offered by the leadership of both institutions. We appreciate you. So today, Kenya National Commission on Human Rights is releasing its official report on monitoring exercise, which I'm aware contains independent findings and further makes recommendations which are largely aimed at informing better decisions and preparations in future by the various state and non-state actors involved in administration of elections. So on our part, as IPOA, we congratulate you. I mean, you've done well. You've set the bar. So we endeavor to pull up our socks next time. But we are really proud of that achievement. Doing a comprehensive report within that short time is a commendable job. So we need to appreciate Kenya National Commission on Human Rights. So as IPOA will soon release an equally independent report. However, we have since published preliminary report on the same. Therefore, I would presume many of you may be aware of the contents since it was released to the public and was widely publicized. The IPOA report is a culmination of a strategy to monitor the conduct of police officers during, before, and after the elections, which we had conceptualized just before the electioneering period. As the monitoring covered the campaign period, party primaries, the polling day, as well as the aftermath. In our preliminary report, we established that the police, and I'm very proud we are represented by senior officers. Today we have the spokesperson of the police, Madam Shioso, and Mr. Kitabi, who was very critical in all the trainings. In fact, I at one point was asking how he's managing, because he was everywhere. And we kindly appreciate this gentleman. He did a commendable job in ensuring a multi-sector, multi-agency approach succeeded. So we acknowledge you and we appreciate you. So we noted in our, we thank the members of the service. They did well. They did well. I think that goes without saying. And we established that they were better organized, better prepared towards management of polling security. And this was commendable and a milestone towards police reforms. We can all see the benefits and the achievements of police reforms. So we also thank the people of Kenya for maintaining peace to a large extent when compared to the past election cycles. However, we picked out a number of cases of misconduct which have since been advanced to investigation and range from beatings, shooting, and one incident of sexual assault. IPOA has assured the public that these cases will be investigated, and where criminal culpability is found, a recommendation to prosecute will be made. On the same breath, officers found to have acted within the law will be absolved. It's only fair that if they acted within the law, we also be ready to accept that they will be absolved from blame, isn't it? So allow me to take this opportunity to congratulate my colleague chairperson, Ms. Dede, and the Commission, Kenya National Commission on Human Rights, on the launch of your report. May God bless Kenya National Commission on Human Rights and God bless Kenya.
Thank you very much, Chair, IPOA. Now let me take this opportunity and invite Roslyn Odede, the chairperson, Kenya National Commission on Human Rights, to make her remarks.
Chairperson Anne Makori, the chairperson of the Independent Policing Oversight Authority, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It is a pleasure and honor to be with you this morning, and it's all due to the grace of God, and we thank Him. Allow me to start by registering our appreciation as the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights to each and every one of you present here this morning. We really do thank you for honoring our invite. I acknowledge the presence of key partners here present with whom we have collaborated and worked closely in monitoring and observing the elections. We did not work alone, we did not work in a silo, we worked in partnership, and partnerships really worked for us. These include the Norwegian Embassy, who generously supported the process, the IUBC, who is represented here by Mr. Keitani. We have the chair of IPOA, who has just spoken, Chairperson Anne Makori. We have the CAJ, represented by their Vice Chairperson, Washington Sati. Thank you for coming. I know you're launching another document, but you've honored us by being present. We really do appreciate. We have the National Gender and Equality Commission, represented by Commissioner Caroline. Thank you, Commissioner. NCIC, also present, represented by Commissioner Philip Okundi. The NPS as well, represented through the director and spokesperson, Bruno. Thank you, Bruno. We have the NCCK, who's also been a very great partner. We worked on a program together, and represented by their General Secretary, Reverend Canon Chris Kinanjui. We have Mule Nsao, who chairs the election observation group, and the TDA, Technical Working Group on Elections. We have Lee, who is representing the Office of the High Commissioner of Human Rights. We thank you for being here and for supporting us with giving us a lot of technical support through the process. We thank the media. We really want to thank you, the media. You've worked with us this journey. You've covered all our statements, submissions. You've always been with us. We really appreciate and thank you, the media. And I would also like to thank all other stakeholders here present. I may not have listed you, named you, but we appreciate you. We have and continue to work very closely on elections and human rights issues, and we hope to continue to walk these journeys together. We do appreciate you. Thank you very much. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we all know that Kenyan elections are one of the most critical events in the Kenyan political and civic calendar. Held every 5 years, it offers Kenyans the opportunity to engage in the democratic process by electing their leaders. Today, exactly 3 weeks after the Supreme Court of Kenya rendered its judgment on the presidential election petitions, we, the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights, have the pleasure to launch and share the findings of our final 2022 election monitoring and observation report, which we have named Demystifying Our Democracy. We are happy to share this report with you. The Commission has been monitoring the 2022 election cycle for slightly over 8 months, because we began in December of last year. And the main aim of monitoring was to promote and protect human rights before, during, and after the elections. The Commission released its earlier findings on the political parties' nominations about 35 days to the elections. And in that, we were reflecting on the state of human rights. And today, we give you our final report. Looking at the two reports, and on the whole, we find that Kenya has made enormous strides as a country in election matters. In some areas, it has improved. In some areas, it is still lagging. But sad to say, in some areas, we retrogressed. While making this conclusion, we however find that the elections held in 2022 were comparatively, in relation to past elections, more efficient and transparent, and with fewer human rights violations. So we found these elections to have been more efficient, more transparent, and having fewer human rights violations. We will be setting this out to you later as we look at the key findings. On the positive strides that we noticed, remember I say that on some areas we improved, on some we're lagging, and on some we retrogressed. So on the positive strides, the Commission acknowledges and applauds the IEBC for putting in place systems that ensured a more robust counting, tallying, transmission, and announcement of result process. We particularly applaud the making of the elections results portal public, despite the difficulties, anxiety, and suspicion caused by the disparate pace of capturing the returns by the various media houses. We also wish to applaud the security agencies, as has been highlighted here before, for carrying out their work in a manner that adequately facilitated the right to vote and be voted for. The security agencies were very responsive and managed to contain several incidences of violence. They were quite professional and humane in their conduct and response. Their restraint in use of force is highly commended. We thank you, Mr. Bruno, and your team. Please pass our commendations to the Inspector General. We also wish to applaud IPOA in the same time, because it is the systems that IPOA has put in place that has made the force realize that they are being watched and they have to observe human rights tenets in their operations. So we thank you, Chair. Thank you very much. At this point, I would like to just take a minute and remember that the security agencies who work for us also suffer. I'd like to recall our officers who were killed in Tiati yesterday. This in the line of duty, and very, very sad and unfortunate. We want to send our condolences to the families of the officers who have died in the line of duty, and we want to remind Kenyans that officers are human beings too, and they also have human rights. And we will work as a commission to ensure that their human rights are respected. As they serve you, let us honor and respect them as human beings. They are our brothers and sisters too. So we mourn with them, and we send our condolences to the force and to the families. In relation to special interest groups, the Commission lauds the voters for electing an increased number of women, youth, and persons with disabilities. There is, however, still need for improvement in the voting facilities for persons with disabilities and older persons, and we shall be elaborating on this as we go forward. This report highlights an increase in the number of independent candidates elected. This could mean one of two things. It is either a positive trend indicating that our country is now enhancing their democratic space and allowing for diversity of political opinions and convictions where people are voted for on their personal desirability, or it could be an indication that the internal political party mechanisms, especially the nominations and dispute resolution systems, are disenfranchising a large number of aspirants who have no recourse but to vie as independent candidates. The jury is out on that. Probably Mule's report will tell us more about that. The report records a substantial drop in the number of lives lost compared to 2017. We've all heard it from NCIC, the way there was a better, peaceful environment. We've had it from IPOL, we've had it from the NPS. We had a much, much more peaceful election. Despite the drop in loss of lives, other violations such as assault, intimidation, harassment, voter bribery, and misuse of children in elections are still a grave concern. One particular disturbing observation is the increase in civilian misuse of firearms, which contributed to at least 70% of the deaths and assaults recorded. A new phenomenon not previously observed was the violence inside tallying centers, which majorly affected election officials. We'll be speaking to that later as well. Another positive note in the report is the level of tolerance and restraint exhibited by members of the public throughout the election process, and especially at the very sensitive time of the announcement of the presidential results. Compared to 2017, there was a substantial drop in civilian unrest and violence as a result of the electoral process and presidential results. This in spite of the highly polarized campaign environment. And at this point, we applaud the NCIC for promoting peace and engaging in very active peace messaging. Very much. You mentioned the need for an MOU. We are open to that, Commissioner. We shall be engaging. Thank you very much. We will. And areas that still need reform and or attention include voter education, voter apathy turnout, how do we improve that? Voter registration, need to ease the transfer of vote. A lot of people do not vote because their votes are stuck in regions that they have since moved out of, so the need to ease the process of transferring the vote needs reform. Training of polling station officials, political party formations and nominations, those are areas we need to engage. Enforcement of election offenses, provisions, largely unenforced to date. Building trust and confidence in the election process, and timelines for conclusion of cases and enacting legislation affecting the election processes. Approximately over 8 million registered voters, about 1/3 of the voters registered, did not participate in the polling process. This is a worrying trend that needs to be probed further for the sustenance of our democracy. The Commission takes cognizance that the voter registration exercise was well conducted by the IEBC to increase the number of voters. This positively increased from 19 million voters in 2017 to over 22 million voters in 2022, an increase of slightly over 1 million voters. When it comes to the judiciary, the court's jurisprudence quite evolved in the 2022 election cycle, as attested in our report. Albeit some court decisions were being given very late in the day, and this affected and had an impact on the planning and logistics of the elections by the IEBC. The Commission, however, notes with concern retrogression on the 2/3 gender principle through a High Court judgment that suspended a decision by the IEBC to compel political parties to comply with the 2/3 gender principle in their nomination of candidates. It is this order that probably explains the number of complaints we are hearing from across the county assemblies over the list of those declared nominated. So this is an area where we have noted retrogression. We take comfort in the words of the President at his inauguration, where he said he looks forward to ensuring that the 2/3 gender principle is legislated within the first 2 years of his term. We are watching and we shall work onto that so that this sees the light of day. So at this point, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to share the key findings of the Commission in its report. The first area we deal with is the right to life, and our report documents 7 cases of loss of life. This is a huge reduction from the 99 cases that were reported in 2017. The 7 cases, yes, you can see the graph there. We have just the blue for this year, and the red was 2017. So we have a big drop in the number of lives lost. And this testifies to the good work done by the security agencies and also the good work done in peace promotion. In that, we thank the religious leaders, the NCCK, and the NCIC for peace messaging constantly. The 7 cases captured in 2022 include 3 deaths which occurred during the campaign period and 4 which occurred during and after the polls. The cases were from 6 counties, namely Kisii, West Pokot, Trans Nzoia, Kisumu, Bungoma, and Nairobi. Out of the 7 documented, 2 were allegedly perpetrated by civilians, 3 were the result of road accidents during political campaigns, and 2 were by unknown assailants. The second area is insecurity. Now, the Commission noted a rise in cases of insecurity in various parts of the county, particularly in Lamu, Garissa, Marsabit, Baringo, Elgeyo Marakwet, Mandera, Nakuru, Turkana, and West Pokot counties. While the government took measures to enhance security in those areas, the Commission notes that insecurity impedes citizens' democratic rights, and the right to vote and be voted for is affected. Further, the rights to association, assembly, movement, and expression are also impacted negatively, and as a result, the Commission noted a reduction in campaign activities in those areas and an increase in criminal cases. This is a victim of insecurity. The criminal cases were on the rise, mostly in areas where we had curfews. And you could see that in the picture before that. What did we have? I think, yeah, that's a bullet. A car campaign vehicle was shot at. You can see the bullet shot in the middle. And this was in Mandera, one of the areas that also had curfew imposed on them. The third issue we look at is threats, harassment, and intimidation. The Commission monitored inflammatory speeches in political gatherings and the media and documented 49 cases of threats, harassment, and intimidation. Such utterances disenfranchise people of their constitutionally guaranteed rights by creating fear amongst voters and threatening peace and stability. I think we'll later on in the slides be able to show you some of those utterances that were captured from the North Rift. Okay, yeah, there is an instance where this was picked from social media, and a group was there sending messages that were not very kind to the other side of the divide. There's the next one where somebody was charged in Uasin Gishu County, and they were charged because the words they uttered, in the next slide, yeah, those are the words they uttered, and which caused them to be charged. So these were seen as intimidation, harassment, and threats, and there were many other instances of the same. Now, presence and conduct of security officers. The Commission noted adequate presence of security officers across the country during campaign events and at polling and tallying centers. Security personnel responded to incidents swiftly and in a timely fashion, de-escalating violence and restoring peace where there was unrest. The Commission lauds the Inspector General and his gallant officers drawn from across the country and across various security agencies for the meticulous deployment and for exercising restraint in the use of force during the management of crowds. This may be attributed to the timely training of security officers on public order management, and we commend you, sir, for leading that, and the responsible use of force and firearms during crowd control. We thank you. The other area we looked at was disruption of legal or political activities. And during the campaigns, the Commission documented 51 cases of disruption of legally organized gatherings. On the presence of officers, we captured them, gatherers in political gatherings, just being present, observing what was going on and making sure things went well. There they were again, ensuring peace. This is still the presence. You can see the number of police officers. This was in Jacaranda, Nairobi, a place that was very tense, but was managed very, very well. We had disruption of political activities. Again, a picture from Jacaranda, where citizens from opposing political divides actually met at the grounds, and it was very, very chaotic. So that was captured. We actually recorded 51 cases of disruption of political gatherings. The other area is the inducement and undue influence of voters. Now, elections are the litmus test for a true democratic political system. Democracy is affected if the will of the people is either bought or manipulated through inducements. The Elections Offences Act prohibits any form of inducement of voters to either attend, participate, or refrain in any political activity. During the monitoring exercise, the Commission documented 193 cases of inducements and undue influence of voters. 182 cases were attributed to the campaign period, while 11 were observed on polling day. Some of the forms of inducement observed include the distribution of branded food and money during the campaign, and distribution of money as well during the campaign period. The inducement mainly took the form of basic commodities, including flour and water. And we captured some of these incidences. This is in Mombasa. You can see flour is being distributed very, very openly, and there's no hiding the fact that this is being done. We have similar incidences, again, still in Mombasa. This is an aspirant who set up a free water point and was distributing water to the people, and very, very openly too. In Kiambu, this one we had flour also being distributed. You remember the elections came at a period when unga was a problem. And therefore using unga at that time was a good way to capture people's interest and their votes. So we captured so many incidences of that, over 190 incidences of voter bribery. Interestingly, one of our commissioners was also approached with a bribe when she said she was going to vote in Mombasa. And so we actually witnessed bribery to large extent, even to personal, to ourselves, yes. So there were the offers to bribe, and they were not even hiding it. That's the sad bit about this bribery issue, is that the politicians were very brazen. They would come out and they wouldn't hide it. And some would just talk of the way I carried a lot of money. I was given money to come and distribute. And this is very, very concerning in terms of getting people to vote out of their free will. The other area we looked at is misuse of public resources. And misuse of public resources to advance the political interest of a particular group or individual to the inclusion of others is a breach of public duty. The Elections Offences Act bars the use of public resources in public political activities as it accords one party an unfair advantage. Whereas it is a political right for public servants to associate themselves with the ideals of a political group, the law prohibits the utilization of state-allocated resources to advance personal political interests. The Commission documented 44 cases of misuse of public resources in political activities at both the national and county levels, giving some candidates an unfair advantage over others. We recorded quite a number, and this is some of them. This is Unguja in Siaya County, where an office built using CDF funds is used as a campaign promotion tool. We saw a similar incident in Murang'a County, where a police station was also built using CDF funds and launched at the election time just to promote a candidate. The other area we looked at was access to polling centers by observers, and this was very concerning. The presence of observers at polling stations plays a crucial role in assuring voters, candidates, party agents, government, and the public of the credibility of the election process. It increases public confidence in the process and offers an accountability tool for IEBC officials and other stakeholders. Despite the accreditation by IEBC, the Commission recorded instances where observers were denied access to either the polling stations or tallying centers. And we've tried to just highlight a few of them there for you. At Kilimani, observers were not allowed in until 10 to 6, which means they were not able to observe the opening and setup of the polling station. We also have a situation in Igembe where the gates were closed and a guard was instructed by the returning officer not to allow anyone inside, including accredited observers. These are very, very sad scenarios, and we hope the IEBC will be able to address them going forward. Next slide. Okay. The next element we look at is opening and closing of polling stations. The Commission noted some administrative challenges in the deployment of polling materials, which affected the opening of some polling stations. To this end, the Commission documented 53 cases of late opening of polling stations. 11 were due to the failure of the KIMS kits. 42 was a result of delayed delivery of polling materials. Consequently, this led to the late closure of these stations, but the time in all of them was extended to compensate the late opening. We saw in Mombasa, in Muvita, the polling was opened at 9 because materials did not arrive in time. In Kilifi, the polling was opened at 7:13. The ballots again, the materials were delayed. So these are instances where we captured, but in total we captured 53 cases of late opening and closing of polling stations. The next element we look at is the performance of the KIMS kits. Excuse me. The performance of the KIMS kits, this was a highly contentious issue in the last election, with a lot of discourse going up and down between the political parties and the IFAC on whether to use manuals, whether they will revert to the manual registers, or whether we will only use the KIMS kit to identify voters. This matter went up and down, and finally, in the last minute, orders and directives allowing IBC to resort to manual identification where there were challenges with the kits were issued by the courts. This then allowed IBC to use the manual registers, and I think it was a godsend for them, this court judgment, because indeed the KIMS kits did fail and manual registers were applied. The Commission notes the disparate approaches in use of the manual registers. There was no singular approach to how the manual registers were reverted to, and this was a concern as different polling stations, different polling officers use different methods to permit the use of manual registers. There were places where people were being asked to take pictures with their IDs. There were places where people were just writing their names into a book, and there were all sorts of different ways in applying that manual register. More details are covered in our report. Instances of failure were recorded, as shown on the slide there, and I can't tell the venues where that came from, but yes, we did recorded instances of failures of the KIMS kit. The next element we look at is safety of polling materials and officials. The Commission noted with great concern the rising trend of blatant disruption of the election process and the incidences of violence against IEBC officials at the constituency and national tallying centers. The law allows for aspirants through their agents to observe the counting and tallying process. It is paramount that this right does not infringe on the work of election officials. The Commission documented 33 cases of violence targeting call centers and officials in various parts of the country. These cases include altercations between opposing political factions, misuse of firearms by civilians as documented in Bungoma, Busia, and Siaya, physical violence and the destruction of election materials as witnessed in Mombasa and Kakamega. These confrontations resulted in physical injury to civilians, security personnel, and IEBC officials in Kakamega, Mombasa, Nairobi, and Wajir. In Wajir, an election official had his leg amputated. Cases have also been reported of deaths and abduction of election officials. The Commission has consistently spoken out against and continues to decry the violence, intimidation, harassment, threats, and intimidation of election officials. Such conduct impacts the integrity of the process and must be stopped. We call on the relevant agencies to investigate the incidences and ensure those accountable are brought to book. Conduct, and in the picture there, this is from a polling station in Kakamega. People came in during the counting process, threw away the ballots. You can see the ballots on the floor on the last picture. And you can imagine when the votes are on the floor, how do we count them? How do we verify them? These are instances that we must really not permit, and it's a violation of the rights of those officials and of the election process. Conduct of IEBC officials. During the election monitoring period, the Commission documented 28 incidences of election malpractices by IEBC officials. These incidents range from issuing more than one ballot paper, collusion with politicians during the voting. Incidents were also reported of non-election officials being found in unlawful possession of election materials. Incidents were reported in Kajiado and Nairobi. A presiding officer, if you look at the screen, talks of a presiding officer arrested in Narok, North Constituency, for changing details of the final results in the form, and that was brought out. Polling clerks were produced in court. One of them was seen plucking 4 ballot papers for NCA vote, and another marked them. This is very, very strange. I hope IEBC, you look at your officials and are able to account for this kind of conduct, even though they're also facing criminal trials. In West Pokot, again, there was an incident where one officer was arrested and detained for allegedly altering presidential results from one vote. So there are several instances captured in our report that you will be able to read when you look at it. Then there's the issue of affixing results at the polling station. The law requires that the presiding officer affix a copy of the declaration of the results duly signed at the public entrance to the polling station or at any place convenient and accessible to the public at the polling station. This provision is not only mandatory, but it also places a premium on the public's ability to access all the results announced by the presiding officer within their respective stations. The affixing of the results form at the polling station facilitates the verification and increases transparency. In a departure from what was observed in 2017, 45 polling stations monitored in 2022 failed to affix the results at the polling stations. We do not have the list, but we have a full list annexed to the report, and you'll be able to see exactly which polling stations failed to comply. On the right to property, during the election monitoring period, the Commission documented 22 incidences of unlawful destruction of property. These incidents were witnessed in Nairobi, Murang'a, Trans Nzoia, Siaya, and Isiolo. And if you look there, you can see that car has the window smashed, and I think the windscreen is also bashed. This was in Murang'a. And the next one, this is deliberate destruction of somebody's campaign material, Wakungu from Kiminini in Trans Nzoia County. So we have many other incidences captured in our report. Then we have freedom of expression. Freedom of expression is indeed a cornerstone of human rights and a pillar of free and democratic societies, as it supports other fundamental rights such as the right to information and to participate in public affairs. During the 2022 election period, the Commission noted abuse of freedom of expression, mainly on online platforms, including social media platforms, mainstream media, blogs, and other channels, through pseudo accounts and persons hired to propagate hate speech and/or propaganda. The intention was to disinform and misinform the public to the disadvantage of the rival political camps. The deliberate misinformation caused anxiety and fueled animosity, intolerance, and polarization amongst the citizenry. The report captures two incidences, one in Kericho, and it also captures two incidences, one in Kericho and one in Kakamega, where members of the Fourth Estate were either attacked or impeded in accessing polling stations. And we spoke out against all that at the initial statements. Do we have anything on the right to? Okay. And then the other element we look at is misuse of children. We know that we have a law, the Children Act, which provides for child rights and highlights that the best interest of a child is the paramount principle when dealing with a child. Children are neither voters nor are they candidates, and their role in an election is neither here nor there, and is very undesirable and also a violation of their rights. The Commission documented 163 incidents of children's involvement and attendance in political activities, meetings, and campaigns. This is regrettable, noting that these children ought to be in school or engaged in learning activities and not exposed to the potential risk for ills of political violence, foul language, and uncouth practices. Parents should shield their children from such exposure. And we have some there showing. I think we have that. The next slide. And the next slide. They are actively being used in the campaigns. And they were also being given money and some inducement in these forums. When they pose like that, wote wanaenda nyumbani na 50 bob or something. So that's very, very unfortunate. Access to polling stations by special interest groups. The Commission documented cases of polling stations that were not accessible to persons with disabilities and older persons. For instance, in Gatina Ward in Nairobi County, several polling stations were on the first floor of a building with no lifts or ramps. Similarly, Muhuri, Mushiri Polling Center in Kasarani, and Ziwa Langombe Primary School in Mombasa were equally inaccessible to persons with disabilities. The Commission also notes that there were no voting materials to cater for persons with visual impairment or hearing impairment, and there were no lowered booths to enable people on wheelchairs to be able to vote comfortably. There is room for improvement on rights of persons who are abled differently. So you've seen that those are buildings where you can see the voters are on the first floor, and there's no space even for a ramp or to lift someone in a wheelchair. There's the picture where there's the lady trying to come downstairs. You can see the lady at the back. She's got a crutch, so she definitely has a broken leg, and she's struggling to come down the stairs. And you can see not much support from the watching public. This shows how we are as a nation and a people. Yeah, but those are concerns. You can see in that school as well, the voters are on the first floor up there. And this is very sad. Rights of intersex persons and their participation in the 2022 elections. I want to ask at this point, who knows who is an intersex person? Anybody who knows? Intersex. Yes. Okay. She says that intersex is a person born with both features. Dennis, who is an intersex? Nimerudi shule ya Kubaru kidogo.
So an intersex person or child is a child conceived and born with a mixture of, Thank you, Dominic. So an intersex child is a child conceived, born outside the normal binary classification of male or female. It's a biological condition by birth, of course. It's natural. It's nobody's wish. It's no parents' wish. And this is caused because of some kind of malformation or ambiguity in terms of the genitalia. You go to a hospital as a mother, the first thing you want to know is it a boy or a girl? And a midwife or a doctor looks at you with amazement, confusion. It's neither a boy nor a girl. Why? Because of the physical, genital ambiguities. You can neither see a penis or a vagina. You cannot really tell. A testicle, whatever it is. Then it also comes in terms of chromosomes. There's X and Y. XY for male child, XX for female child, normally as it's called. In this case, a child is born either with XXY or YYX, and that causes ambiguity. In terms of hormones, for ladies, you have estrogen, which is dominant, and then testosterone for male. In such a child, you find that there's a kind of confusion, the natural malformation. So you find probably there's more of estrogen for a so-called girl and testosterone for men. In terms of gonads, we know that girls, or the so-called normal, I don't know what normal means, ovaries for ladies, and then testicle for men. In this case, you'll find an ovotesticle. A child born with both an ovary and a testicle. These, most of the time, are, undescended from within. At times, they don't have uterus for girls. So, there are a lot of things that are supposed to happen in terms of medical intervention or corrective surgeries, which, of course, the genetician professor will tell us so much, but that's for another class. So, I think the point here, what you're saying is, each one of you, if you take a journey along your memory lane, as you're growing up, as you went to school, probably you had a colleague in school, a child, a friend, who you are not so sure, is this a boy or this a girl? Because of the characteristics that are prohibited. They are within us. The last year, during the last census, we had, actually the government recognized intersex persons. And had 1,524. Those ones who came out and were counted were recognized. And for information, I'm one of the commissioners, and I'm the first intersex person to hold this kind of a position. And so we appreciate our government. And so, Chair, go ahead and tell us what's happening with intersex in this process. Thank you.
Commissioner, I just wanted to be sure you do not confuse the intersex with the transgender. This is a natural condition that someone is born to. It's not a choice that someone makes. So the rights of intersex persons and their participation in the 2022 election. The Commission takes cognizance of the progress made by the government towards the recognition and protection of intersex persons and their involvement in all spheres of life like all other human beings. During the just concluded elections, the Commission recorded 2 cases of intersex persons who vied for the position of member of county assembly. One was in Nairobi and the other was in Kisumu. It was a challenge getting these people cleared and on the ballot because, as explained by the commissioner, sometimes they don't look female, they don't look male, their documents are confusing, and they're challenged when they produce their identification documents. The commission acknowledges the IBC for supporting intersex candidates and helping them to get the relevant clearance certificates without questioning their gender. The Commission also, through the Intersex Persons Implementation and Coordination Committee, supported the two and facilitated their timely clearance by IBC. We wish them well on their political journey. Lastly, before I finish, I'd like to echo the concerns of Mule Sao on the future of the IBC as a commission. This is a space we have to watch very, very keenly. We know the term of 3 commissioners is coming to an end in January of next year, and we know the other 4, there are already petitions filed for their removal. So we are likely to have a gap in the IBC. At one point, we were happy that there was going to be a rolling commission with some retiring, some staying, but we're now looking and staring at a space where we might be without commissioners. The past trend has been to hold on to the nomination or appointment of commissioners for long periods of time. It behoves each and every stakeholder here to work towards ensuring that the independence of the commission is maintained by ensuring proper, timely recruitment of commissioners into that commission so that we don't experience any gaps or lapses in terms of having that commission operating independently and ensuring that steps towards preparing for the next general election, reforms noted in our recommendations are taken up in time. So this is a space we ask all of you to hold hands and work on as we move forward in this electioneering issues. Again, I would like to echo the words of the Vice Chair of the CAJ, who called for the gathering of duty bearers to see to the implementation of the recommendations. I want to tie this with what Elog said about a compendium. If we have a compendium, then having those duty bearers together to work towards ensuring implementation will be a strong way forward in these issues. And we take both issues on board, and we thank you. So at this point, I would like to conclude by stating that the report that we have provided, as stated earlier by Director Han, provides strong recommendations to duty bearers, which, if acted upon, will usher in a new dawn, ensuring elections next time are held against a strong backdrop of rule of law, respect for human rights, progressive reforms, and a peaceful environment. Ladies and gentlemen, that's the report of the Kenya National Commission of Human Rights. I thank you all. God bless you.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairperson, and thank you very much, the whole lot of you, for your patience. I know there is one bit that was not presented, and basically those are the recommendations. But now we are going to the next stage, where we will do the official launch of our monitoring report. And in that report, you'll be able to give the strong recommendations that we have made to various stakeholders and duty bearers. So at this moment, we'll just go to the next session where we will do the official launch. It will be a short one. I know the media practitioners here would like to go and file their stories, so we'll make it short and nice. So I wish to call upon the chairperson of Kenya National Commission on Human Rights to be joined by the commissioners and also the speakers who made their remarks. I would request you to come over at the podium so that we can go along with it. For the media, your reports will be given out by Linesta, my colleague who is here. They are actually at the back there. So may I request the media team if we can pick up your microphones, because we'll need to keep these table down here, please, if you may. Thank you very much. So Chairperson and Commissioners, CEO, the visitors, our friends who made the remarks, kindly, if you may join.
Sasa demo amesimama mbele yetu.